I mentioned the oil support and protection.
We can all use it.
Indeed, it was about purifying your personal space. But obviously, this has assumed a whole different level of relevance.
I'm Bruce Pask. I'm the men's fashion director of Bergdorf, Goodman, and Neiman Marcus. I'm really pleased to be hosting Creative Conversations from London Fashion Week, their first digital platform. And I'm here with Brendan Murdoch, the founder of Anatome. And he is joining us from his shop in Piccadilly. How are you doing?
I'm really well. It's my first visit to my shop in 8 weeks. So it's being reacquainted to my home in many ways.
I know. Doesn't it feel nice?
It is nice. And actually, it's such an amazing weather here. And I walked up through the park and parked the car. And it's hard to believe. You think it's a Sunday morning that, the shops haven't opened. And then you realize when you meet your first person in a mask, because that's the first time I've seen people.
Alternate reality.
Yeah, so curious.
Well, I'm happy to see that things are easing and things are slowly coming back to life, which I think is really reassuring. And I'm sure it must be great to be back in your shop. I miss mine a lot, and we'll be back there shortly too. So I wanted to talk about my first visit to your store. I was not a big self-care product person. I'm like out of the shower, dressed, out of the house. Really not even low maintenance. I'm pretty zero maintenance. And it was really one of the first things that was really struck to me is I met you there with a chemist and going over, and I guess in a way of background, I love that you created this line of botanicals, and they were all kind of situation or function specific. And I'll talk specifically about the one that I was immediately drawn to. And I think, viewers and customers that are watching this who can't use some more help with recovery and sleep these days. And so one of his oils is called Recovery and Sleep. And it's the one that I was first addicted to. And it absolutely changed the way I sleep without a question. And I'd love if we can start talking about that, and even how you came about creating a line that was sort of situation and function based rather than just having like a scent or a flavor.
I think it goes back to before I created Anatome, as you mentioned, I had a men's grooming company called Murdoch.
Indeed.
And before that, so Murdoch is at the time I was rediscovering the barber shop, and it was to create an environment that spoke to different constituencies of guys. And
pop in that you were very much ahead of that curve without a question.
Yeah, we were kind of ahead of that. And I was retailing old apothecary brands like Santa Maria Novella and Aqua de Gino and DR Harris. So it was fun going around Europe and trying to find brands that maybe the average guy didn't know and had never discovered. And also women were so catered for in unisex salons. Men at the time couldn't really discover product that could change and improve them. Because, the barbershops in England were in Mayfair, and they were a kind of class or a specific demographics, and they weren't maybe opening up to the kind of different constituencies of guy that inhabit the streets of London. But then once I got to know these products, and actually Murdoch at one point was going to be a pharmacy, so I was always curious as to the European pharmacy. And here in England, we don't have so many lovely pharmacies. I thought, well, I'm not a pharmacist and I don't know anything about pharmacy, but I am a man and I understand that I want to sit and experience something unique. And so it's always a good starting point to start with something that you know and understand rather than overreaching.
Yeah, of course.
And then I went around London looking for a perfumer, and I wanted to create one fragrance, and thought, I'm going to create one scent from Murdoch, and I'll use that scent in some shaving products. And actually what happened was I came across this perfumer, and she's called Anastasia Brosier. And Anastasia is actually a few doors up from me here. Her office is on Arlington Street next to the Ritz. And Anastasia creates couture fragrance for the great and the good of the world. In an industry where natural, pure essence is not used in commercial scent, if you're fortunate enough that you can pay a perfumer to create your own scent, you will go to someone like Anastasia. But what Anastasia is, she's pretty different because she works with leading noses around Europe. And depending on who the client is, that nose will fly into London.
That's what I call customer service.
Yeah, and so it's this amazing experience, and it's she meets her clients in a rather palatial surroundings. And what she does is go through this discovery of the relationship between color and how you visualize color and how that relates to scent and how the two things are interconnected. And it's both an emotional and a physical reaction to scent. And so anyway, we started the journey of scent, and she said, no, I think we should create 6 scents for men because, you know, the scent tree reflects different tastes, woody, citrusy, floral. It was a kind of fun process because we went into historic fougere scents, which is like a really typical British scent using lavender. Or then we had a sandalwood scent that looked at extracts of obviously sandalwood and other woods, and we wore that in the heat of the summer. And then we would look at different tobaccos, and so when you look at different tobaccos or different lavenders, you realize there's quite a difference, and that difference can be because tobacco from the Virginian mountains is going to smell very different to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco. Sure. Or lavender that's growing in the Himalayas is going to smell very differently to Cornwall or Provence. And so, you know, I had Murdoch for about 10 years, and cut a long story short, my knowledge increased on scent. I became more aware that people were going to move towards looking, well, why was the perfume industry not looking at extracts that benefit your health and well-being? And what this rather in places dusty aromatherapy market that is very much looking in the past. So the aromatherapists, while highly trained, don't have the training to look at the nuances of different ingredients. For a lot of them, lavender is lavender. And if you go to an aromatherapy shop, you'll just pick lavender. You won't necessarily go into that detail.
So you basically did a deep dive, and it was sort of just self-educating this whole market, like recognizing that there's an opportunity for something beyond scent, but like scent with a function. And you just kind of took that on as an autodidact, we can say.
Yeah, and also just working, like Anastasia is really kind of a I'd be more commercial and obviously have an understanding in many ways from the consumer perspective. But she understands from years of training, the DNA of each ingredient, and can wax lyrically for an hour on a lavender from a particular farm in Cornwall and why that's better than some. So that journey. So again, I go to Anastasia and say, I'm thinking of, you know, I'd like to redefine aromatherapy. I think this is a big market.
Yeah.
People are stressed. People can't sleep. We're in a digital age where we're all distracted. And there's obviously a plethora of reasons why we're stressed, even more today. And so again, she was saying, well, look, there's so many different emotions across the body. You can feel your inward energy, or you're overwhelmed and you're feeling kind of pressured, or you actually want to reach out and stretch and be exuberant, or you want to rest and recover and sleep better. And every botanical and every essential oil extract can support you on each of those aspects. Because I wanted to address aromatherapy in a new way, I looked at a lot of leadership books, and particularly sport, where it's quite affirming when you look at kind of, and it's quite transparent. So choosing names like rest, recovery, and sleep, well, you understand that's going to help me recover, which could be post-exercise or after a stressful day, and it's going to help me sleep. Or support and protection, is actually come into its own, but that's about supporting your personal space. And then there's more tangible ideas like focus and concentration to help awaken the brain when often we're feeling sluggish or tired after a journey or during the
No,
day.
I use that one specifically before I speak or before I have a meeting. I mean, I really, really do. I mean, I've gotten very addicted to them because they do become sort of a part of the ritual for when you're going to be in a certain state where you need this kind of assistance, I suppose.
And one of the joys of having a shop, and now, you know, we're only coming up to a 2-year anniversary.
Right.
Is the shop has allowed us to interact with the customer and discover the customer. And what we've been doing really, especially over the last 6 months, is kind of honing in now on what we've learned and what our DNA is as a brand moving forward. And
Right.
And we've had all of these interactions.
I mean, there's no better feedback than direct customer interaction. And I think these days, obviously, given the pause that the globe has kind of been put in for a moment, I don't think there's ever been more of a focus on self-care and consideration about our different states and what our bodies need and what our minds need. And so I think it's such a perfect place for you to be really exploring and that you've kind of brought this aspect of aromatherapy and really, I think, made it modern and made it relevant.
Yeah, and a lot of people that would be purchasing Anatome are purchasing aromatherapy for the first time. And they may have been gifted things and they may have some knowledge. So there's actually a big educational piece and there's a big discovery process, because when you've created a brand, you know, what I opened in Shoreditch is a different experience to what we've done in Piccadilly. And now moving forward, as we've spent this time actually developing a new web platform that will launch in August.
Oh, great.
And so that timeline really gets you to focus. And it's quite a wide lens when you start and you're just trying to really consolidate and understand, okay, moving forward, there's not always going to be an Anatome member of staff next to these products. So how do I hone in on this and get you to be able to make those decisions without the staff around you and making it more accessible?
I mean, I can pop in and comment on that because, you know, obviously I've met you when you were at Murdoch. I visited your shop very early on. I opened my shop B at Bergdorf Goodman. We've just come up on over a year, and you know, it's a kind of a clothing personally curated kind of clothing and accessory shop. But I wanted these components that I personally love, and you were one of the first that we brought in. To your point, like I think within the context of your shop, you're surrounded by expert advice, opinions, all those materials, and so how does that get reproduced in the context of another shop that may not be your own? And I would have to say that for me, when I'm on the shop floor, it comes from the passion that I think you impart when you are explaining the product, informing about the product. It's really an infectious thing. And once you start using it, you really become passionate about it. And so I know when I'm in the shop and talking to people about it, and even like how you go through as we say, you know, the selling ritual, or, you know, even the service ritual, like putting it on the pressure points right there with them and showing them how to do it. It's a really extraordinary thing. And it really does shift your perspective quite immediately. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I think what's been interesting is, I mean, I used to own a restaurant. That was my first business.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like,
service has been a part of your career in so many different aspects. That's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I did law, but when I left university or law school, I did a couple of postgrads. I mean, it was kind of like, I don't want to be a lawyer. So myself and a friend opened a restaurant on Hoxton Square, which was just around the corner from the first Murdoch. And it was like 100-seater wine warehouse. So I wanted to redefine the wine world. Well, I didn't quite achieve that. But what I did do, we were doing like sharing platters of Mediterranean food on big slates. We had a big wood oven and we were only selling like organic wines. the restaurant industry is tough. I mean, we had chefs that all kinds of addiction, extraordinary talent.
Goodness.
It was just tough. But what you did learn was about customer service. And people do want to have a good time wherever they are, whether it's out to dinner or with their friends. And when it comes to retail and shopping, they want to have a positive time. It's part of how they're choosing to spend their time.
But I also think, like, with your shop, though, I think there's a component of that experience where learning is becoming more and more important. And I think when somebody walks into your shop, like, you walk out of there really gaining knowledge. And I think that's so valuable. And I think that's what you bring to this.
Yeah, and that was the connection, like, because like in the restaurant, you're educating people about wine and food and a new way of eating. Barbering was a similar thing. And so here, you're educating them absolutely about the ingredients and about how to support that. And we have the expertise of nutritionists and sleep experts. So all of my team have a qualification in that background. So there's an authority there. Mm-hmm. And then I think most importantly, British people can be quite reserved, and that's a large portion of our customer. But once they get talking and they're like, oh, right, well, how's this going to help me sleep? You can initiate a conversation, and if they start to say, well, my wife or my boyfriend, he never goes to sleep, and he's on his phone to 8 o'clock, and he's super stressed at work, and I've got this going on. And you can actually start to talk about their life and then impart advice. So I think it's become, as we've honed that craft of conversation, especially now, it's something that's just been developing, and we understand the need for people to talk about how they're feeling, and that leads them into the product and builds a connection and ultimately a relationship with them.
So tell me, I think that's a perfect segue to speak about the product. We spoke a little bit about recovery and sleep, focus and concentration, support and protection. So basically the botanical oils are in a few different categories. I'd love if you could give us a breakdown of those so viewers who are watching us, if they're not as familiar, be great. And also I love that you bring them in two sizes. We've got the larger one with the dropper, which I keep next to my bedside. But then the travel one, which I also found the secret was the travel with the dab on, you told me is actually a higher concentrate. So I was sort of cheating and using the travel one at home because I was like, oh, I'm going to really get the sleep fix on this.
Well, we are, I'm not going to go into the kind of commercial adjustment, but we are making an adjustment to two sizes, which will be just from the fall will be travel and one size.
No, but it's great. It's so smart. It's so smart.
What we do, because in our store we sell supplements as well, which you don't have at Bergdorf, but the two kind of marry together and the way you use them and how they interact, because you're looking after that physical health and then the emotional health. But then on the oil specifically, so for example, we have our classic sleep oil.
Love it.
Has 22 different extracts. And for anyone who's watching, you're just applying the oil with a few drops to the sensory points. And so the mechanism is that after about a week's use, and you're applying it maybe 30 minutes before sleep, you're basically training your body that it's time to sleep. And then after a week, you start to see this kind of tangible improvement. But what we've done with the sleep and with Anastasia, the maverick aromacologist who I mentioned, she's introduced three other top notes that are aligned to specific sleep challenges. So we have a Somali frankincense, and this is our new packaging. And
wow.
So this is, we worked with an artist, and so this kind of scribble is the idea of the overactive mind that's churning with thoughts before bed. And so Somali frankincense is historically a kind of aligned with the kind of to calm the brain as a kind of light sedative. And so that's for you when you just cannot switch off.
One that I have, and I have to say I really love it. And I actually love the frankincense scent. I think it's super nice. And I need my to shut off. That's what I need.
So we have developed, which will launch with this new website, this whole digital sleep map and this wellness journey. And this will, and out of it will, the outcome of this, of the wellness map on the website, will be particular products. So it could be the oil for the overactive mind, or it could be this, for example, is chamomile, and this is for the person who's suffering from insomnia. And so the artwork is the idea of these moving thoughts through your head that you just you cannot quite switch off. And it goes on to the third one, which is a Japanese seaweed, which is more of for the light sleeper. And it's a calming green note. This was the starting point. This is our lavender signature oil. And we have 3 types of lavender in this oil, along with 19 other extracts. And so that was our starting position.
That's great.
And then that moves on to those 3 oils that I mentioned. So the insomnia is the chamomile, the seaweed from Japan, and then the overactive mind, which I talked about a couple of seconds ago. And so this is the kind of, I think we're pretty unique. We won't make all of these oils available around the world with our retailers, because it would be quite confusing, but that's what we want to deliver as the Anatome experience. So you can buy your product in Bergdorf's, but you also can come to our store for a unique experience that complements the experience and the way that you've connected with the brand in a partner site.
Sleep clearly is a necessity and a point of opportunity for so many people. And I think it's so great that you've been clear about even specific sleep kind of challenges, like whether it's you have a problem falling asleep, you have a problem staying asleep. I think it's so great. And again, like we said, taking these botanicals, making them situation specific, which I think is so smart. But let's talk about some of the other ones you've created as well, which I think
so
great.
Because sleep, and especially in these times,
absolutely
supports your immune system. It's, we're trying to encourage people 8 hours sleep, and actually a lot more people probably have achieved 8 hours sleep, where maybe 3 months ago they were living on 5.5 or on empty.
Sure.
And I think people are starting to understand, especially how everything's coming through in what we're reading at the weekends and digitally, about the importance of sleep. So for a brand like Anatome, we want to make sleep this anchor point for your health and wellness, and it's a great place to start the conversation about health and the idea of wellness and well-being. And then that takes us into the supplementation I mentioned, but into daytime oils we also have. So for example, a lot of people are sitting at home feeling tired, trying to work through a 7-hour day. And we're all so familiar with things like CBD oil, but actually botanicals are enriched with oils that help awaken your brain and stimulate your thought process. So with this oil focus and concentration that I was holding up to the screen, it contains just lots of natural stimulants that even after a long flight or sitting at the desk and you're exhausted, things like Indian ginger root and unusual ingredients we use, something called Fregonia from Australia, even Paraguayan black pepper, all of these things are there to stimulate your brain and awaken you. And alongside that oil, we have like 4 other oils supporting daytime challenges, whether it's breathing, respiration, mindfulness, or something to relieve kind of pressure and the kind of weight of the world.
I mean, I use, I'm a customer. I use the product, and focus and concentration is one I was talking about earlier. Like when I'm going to give a talk, when I'm going to go into a meeting, it's become part of my routine. And it is, and I like that there's sort of these like healthy crutches in a way, like they become part of your behavior. And like, I like how you even said, like when you just start with recovery and sleep, you're already putting your mind in a state by starting the process, by putting the dabs on your sensory points. You're already getting your mind ready. So I think you're, in addition to the product, you're kind of creating this routine that I think is this very kind of nurturing thing. And I think that's what I love about it. As much as it's this really wonderful product, it's also a behavior shift and a mindset shift. And I think we can all use that these days. And I really love that component of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Using the daytime oils, particularly within, a lot of people we do yoga workshops or Pilates workshops using the oils. So there's all those different contexts. But what's common, which you highlighted, is that thread that if you're going into a meeting or doing a presentation, you have a moment to slow down and connect with yourself. The same like you would before breathing in a mindfulness class, or even your own self-care at home. And I think it's giving these supporting anchors across the day, night and day. And I think, and so at the very least, it's helping you with structure. When for a long time, a lot of us have been living in day-to-day existence, maybe without the best structures in place to support our emotional health and our physical health.
No, again, it is like, spending a little time thinking about our self-care and how we best go about our day. I want you, if you don't mind, to grab the travel dispensers behind you, because I want to show everybody how great these are, the little dab-ons.
Yeah. So
I love that. I love it's so convenient and easy to use. And I love the packaging, and it's like a little roll-on, and you have, exactly how much it puts on. It's just couldn't be easier, and you put it in your bag and go. And I think it's so clever to have that bedside or, desk or larger size to have accessible. But then when you're on the go, I love that.
Yeah, and it's also just a really good access point for the brand. But whilst you may be consuming sleep oil, and within some of the other lines we have, it's a good way to connect and introduce into your day-to-day existence. And yeah, you don't want to be trying to apply some of the oils if you're in a yoga studio. So the little dab on works super well. And ease of use is super important to us.
I totally agree. And I want to talk a little bit, obviously we're here with London Fashion Week, the British Fashion Council's first digital platform. So I want to talk about, we're focusing here on, independent English brands and brands with a lot of made in the UK. And I love that yours is made in Hampshire, which is obviously not far from the city. But I think that's another thing I'd be curious to talk about, the manufacture.
Yeah, well, we work with 3 British manufacturers. So we make all of the oils we've been talking about in an aromatherapy factory in Hampshire. And we've had to work quite hard with them because they hadn't been used to importing some of the rarefied extracts that we use.
Right. I mean, they must be from all over the world, these ingredients you talk about.
Yeah, and scent is super important to us. So often in aromatherapy, you don't think about what the top note smells like. We're treating these like perfumes. So it's been a challenging but positive process to get them to think like perfumers.
Oh, wow.
And putting in that precision that everything has to smell like the control sample. And so when they're not a trained nose, it just adds an extra layer of complexity to production, because you don't have a perfumer in the factory when they're producing to double check that the kind of base oil is correct.
And they must love that kind of expansion of their skills, like really recognizing that they can be trained to have awareness of another component of what they do.
I mean, I think some of them love it, and I think some of them think that I'm a pain in the ass because I'm like literally going, that doesn't smell. And the worry is they then destroy 10 liters of very expensive product. So it's been a bit of pull and push. And alongside that, we make our skincare in Leicester, which is north of London.
Yeah, of course.
And then and we work with a small organic factory. And actually we have another factory here that does our face care in London. So it's been finding small factories that have a passion for essential oils and have that knowledge base, because it's quite specific. And it's been challenging to find and align ourselves with manufacturing that are really excellent and have that attention to detail. because things can go wrong quite quickly if you don't have those kind of processes in place when you're trying to scale.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm thrilled to kind of have you a part of this conversation, because when we were speaking about, independent brands and designers that we wanted to kind of speak with and have a conversation with, I think, self-care, especially these days, is never been more important and has become such a growing, burgeoning industry. And I urge any of our viewers and readers to stop by the shop. It is a really enrolling experience, as I spoke about at the top of our conversation, to walk in and have this really amazing knowledge imparted and discussed. And I'm such a fan, as you know. And we're really thrilled that you were able to take us through. You said we looked at some of the new product design, new things on the horizon for us.
Yeah, we just have created, one thing we've discovered during this time is people are really thinking about their personal space, whether it's home, the decor, the environment that they're living in.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
And I mentioned the oil, where is it? So I mentioned support and protection.
We can all use it.
Indeed. And it was a bit abstract. When Anastasia created it, it was about purifying your personal space, whether you're on an airplane in crowded spaces or a train. Obviously, this has assumed a whole different level of relevance.
What are the main scents and ingredients in support and protection?
It's everything from rosemary to eucalyptus. So it's all antibacterial ingredients. I think we've got 18 of them. And what we've done over the last 2 months is create a home collection in relation to support. So what we do have, which smells amazing, is a new trigger gun, which is to spray your personal space. So it's alcohol based. It's an antibacterial, so it kind of qualifies as that. And then we have, for when you're on the go, we have support and protection to spray an antibacterial for the hands. So it's a 50 ml that goes into your bag.
Amazing.
And then we're bringing in these lovely porcelain electric diffusers, so as you can infuse your space at home with support and protection. So that's just a taster of it. That self-care is going a little bit further, and it's been a good. One of the positive things about this time, I mean, it's not great closing a store, but it has allowed us to think more about the consumer and to think about what our brand needs, what it needs to deliver over the next 3 to 5 years, and how we've been reshaping that. And the digital platform which you were talking about, we've been part of this accelerator called the Founders Factory here in London, which is backed by L'Oreal and other big brands. So they've been working with us over the last 6 months. And we have a team of about 9 people helping us develop and deliver our digital platform. So I wouldn't have had that knowledge. And so having had this team working with me has been really, really, really great. It makes such a difference to get all that intelligence and knowledge that as a brand would be difficult to access. So that's been an important step change for us.
Oh, that's great. So Brendan, tell me how you've had to adjust your shop in this time and how you've changed and adapted. The one thing that I've been so impressed by with vendors and designers and even fashion school students I've spoken with, like the resilience and the adaptability that I've been so impressed by. And how has that affected you and Anatome, and how have you adjusted?
I think it was interesting. I think the weeks leading up, we knew shutdown was imminent, and we saw the footfall dwindling on the streets for up 6 weeks up until that day. So there was a moment of panic, and there was a moment where I was ringing the warehouse, and I was like, we need to get our product into boxes and get it to the warehouse so as we can continue trading. And so there was a kind of sense of panic, and people were panicking. There was like images on the internet of the soldiers coming into London in case, you know, there was going to be social disorder, and there was images of luxury shops boarding up, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
my goodness, is this going to be a Cormac McCarthy novel?
Wow.
What are we getting into?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, we have our staff and we have our store. It's too much to try and move online moved to what we would call a pick and pack, or a fulfillment house that would process our orders. And so with this, they made a decision here in the UK, you could furlough your staff, but then I decided that our staff could process the internet orders, and like a lot of e-commerce businesses, continue trading through the process. So the things that we've done is the staff have been processing the orders at limited hours during the week. And then we also started a PPC, or kind of Facebook, Instagram ad campaign. And we've learned how to really launch and deploy campaigns around certain products and build our e-commerce business. And we started also advertising in some print media that people are still enjoying, like the Financial Times at the weekends. And
so basically you transitioned your shop and your workers there into kind of a online warehouse, so you could still serve your clients and get the product out there. I think that's really clever.
Yeah, and we also launched, because we have 2 nutritionists, so we've been doing virtual nutrition appointments.
Oh, amazing.
And we haven't been charging people, so you can sign up for 10 or 15 minutes, I mean longer if you wish.
Wow.
And they've been doing 20 or 30 appointments a week. And it's a good way just to talk to people and talk about the brand, and not to feel like you're pushing product at them. And of course, some people choose to buy. I mean, that has actually been quite successful. So we're going to structure it properly and launch virtual well-being appointments on our new platform.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's fight or flight. You're always worried it could destroy your business, something like this, and no doubt it will damage so many businesses. But with a wellness business, obviously we all want to be well, and for me, it's been I wouldn't use the word opportunity, but it's been a moment to connect with people in a new way. And I think we're really thinking now, how do we build a more compelling digital proposition? And that's been a really positive step.
Because I think that is the challenge, is how do you replicate the in-store experience online, digitally, and especially with a shop like yours, with people that are as knowledgeable as you and people that work there. I think that is, the challenge, and I think you're absolutely up for it. And I think what you've done with disseminating that product knowledge and how your materials and the things you share has been so informative. I think I'm excited for this time for you and for the brand, because I do think, given this global pause we've had, I think it's necessarily given us a focus on self-care, as we've talked about, but also just taking time to think about what our bodies need, what our minds need. And I think this has been clearly on your mind, and this product line, I think, is been very focused on that. And I think, especially with these new product introductions you have, I think it's going to be very, very exciting, and that we all need to take a breath and really assess and spend that time assessing what we need to feel better.
Yeah, and it's been interesting because it's a unisex brand, and so whether you're a male couple, a female couple, or a man and woman together, the way you look after each other, or just yourself, you can be single, but whatever is going on in your life, there's a way of connecting in with Anatome and making that human connection with the brand. And I think we're all looking for that a little bit more. So we are approaching it in a kind of genuine place. It comes out of a genuine foundation, which I hope comes through as we articulate the brand more clearly moving forward. And I think hopefully people get that and understand how the brand has been created, because brands need to be created from a place of truth and honesty and genuine care, and that's what makes a great brand that lives on forever. And that's
expertise and credibility and trust, like all those things, which I think you really, really do imply.
Yeah, and people forget it does take I mean, I'm sure fashion, and I'm not as knowledgeable, but no doubt in fashion, it takes many seasons to get your footing and your understanding of what you're trying to communicate in the collections that you're creating. And it's no different in skincare or aromatherapy. You're learning season to season, and then hopefully you start to find that that language and that ability to communicate with the customer and make that connection, and then hopefully then you start to see that growth as a result of that work.
That's exciting. Well, thank you for sharing the new products with us. I cannot wait for the room spray.
I will mail you an advanced copy.
When will that be in stores? Which I'd love to let our viewers know.
We will have this in store from the end of June.
Oh, wow. So really soon.
Yeah, we are launching the support and protection range over the summer. And then the new sleep collection will be available towards the end of the summer for fall.
Your timing couldn't be better. And we're grateful for it. And I'm grateful for you joining me here for London Fashion Week Creative Conversations. It's been a pleasure. And I wish you all the best. And I can't wait to get back there and make my trip to the shop.
Well, thank you for your time, and thanks for inviting us to talk about Anatome. And we will see you in London very soon.
Indeed. Thanks, Brendan.
Take care. Bye, Bruce.